Section 5 of An Englishwoman's Love Letters. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. An Englishwoman's Love Letters by Anonymous. Section 5, Letters 19 through 22. Letter 19. Dearest, dearest, how long has this happened? You don't tell me the day or the hour. Is it ever since you last wrote? Then you have been in pain and grief for 4 days, and I not knowing anything about it, and you have no hand in the house kind enough to let you dictate by it one small word to poor me? What heartless merry-makings may I not have sent you to worry you, when soothing was the one thing wanted? Well, I will not worry now then, neither at not being told, nor at not being allowed to come. But I will come thus and thus, oh my dear heart, and take you in my arms, and you will be comforted, will you not be, when I tell you that even if you had no legs at all, I would love you just the same. Indeed, dearest, so much of you is a superfluity, just your heart against mine, and the sound of your voice would carry me up to more heavens than I could otherwise have dreamed of. I may say now that I know it was not your choice, what a void these last few days the lack of letters has been to me. I wondered truly if you had found it well to put off such visible signs for a while, in order to appease one who, in other things more essential, sees you rebellious. But the wonder is over now, and I don't want you to write, not till a consultation of doctors orders it for the good of your health. I will be so happy talking to you. Also I am sending you books. Those I wish you to read, and which you now must, since you have the leisure. And I for my part will make time and read yours. Whose do you most want me to read, that my education in your likings may become complete? What I send you will not deprive me of anything, for I have the beautiful complete set, your gift, and shall read side by side with you to realize in imagination what the happiness of reading them for the first time ought to be. Yesterday, by a most unsympathetic instinct, I went out for a long tramp on my 2 feet, and no ache in them came and told me of you. Over Singleford I sat on a bank and looked downhill where went a carter, and I looked uphill where lay something which might be nothing, or not his. Now shall I make a fool of myself by pursuing to tell him he may have dropped something, or shall I go on and see? So I went on and saw a coat with a fat pocket, and by then he was out of sight, and perhaps it wasn't his, and it was very hot, and the hill steep. So I minded my own business, making Cain's motto mine, and now feel so bad, being quite sure that it was his. And I wonder how many miles he will have tramped back looking for it, and whether his dinner was in the pocket. These unintentional misdoings are the sins one repents of all one's life long. I have others stored away, the bitterest of small things done or undone in haste, and repented of at so much leisure afterwards, and always done to people or things I had no grudge against, sometimes even a love for. They are my skeletons. I will tell you of them some day. This, dearest, is our first enforced absence from each other, and I feel it almost more hard on me than on you. Beloved, let us lay our hearts together and get comforted. It is not real separation to know that another part of the world contains the rest of me. Oh, the rest of me, the rest of me that you are! So, thinking of you, I can never be tired. I rest yours. Letter 20. Yes, dearest, patience but is a virtue I have little enough of naturally, and used to be taught to pray for as a child. And I remember once really hurting clear Mother Aunt's feelings by trying to repay her for that teaching by a little iniquitous laughter at her expense. It was too funny for me to feel very contrite about, as I do sometimes over quite small things, or I would not be telling it you now, for there are things in me I would conceal even from you. I dare say you wouldn't guess it, but the M.A. is a most long person, over her private devotions. Perhaps it was her own habit, with the cares of a household sometimes conflicting, which made her recite to me so often her pet legend of a saintly person who, constantly interrupted over her prayers by mundane matters, became a pattern in patience out of these snippings of her godly desires. So one day angels in the disguise of cross people with selfish demands on her time came seeking to know where in her composition or composure exasperation began, and finding none, they let her return in peace to her missal, where for a reward all the letters had been turned into gold. And that, my dear, comes of patience, my aunt would say, till I grew a little tired of the saying. I don't know what experiences my uncle had gathered of her patience under like circumstances, but I notice that to this day he treads delicately, like Agag when he knows her to be on her knees, and prefers then to send me on his errands instead of doing them himself. So it happened one day that he wanted a particular coat which had been put away in her clothes closet, and she was on her knees between him and it, with the time of her amen quite indefinite. I was sent, said my errand briefly, and was permitted to fumble out her keys from her pocket while she continued to kneel over her morning psalms. What I brought to him turned out to be the wrong coat. I went back and knocked for readmittance. Long-sufferingly she bade me to come in. I explained, and still she repressed herself, only saying in a tone of affliction, "Do see this time that you take the right one." After I had made my second selection, and proved it right on my uncle's person, the parallelism of things struck me, and I skipped back to my aunt's door and tapped. I got a low wailing "Yes" for an answer, a monosyllabic substitute for the "How long, O Lord?" of a saint in difficulties. When I called through the keyhole, "Are your psalms written in gold?" she became really angry, I suppose because the miracle so well earned had not come to pass. Well, dearest, if you have been patient with me over so much about nothing, I pray this letter may appear to you written in gold. Why I write so is, partly that it is bad for us both to be down in the mouth, or with hearts down at heel. And so, since you cannot, I have to do the dancing; and partly because I found I had a bad temper on me which needed curing, and being brought to the sun-go-down point of owing no man anything, which sooner said has finally been done, and I am very meek now, and loving to you, and everything belonging to you, not to come nearer the sore point. And I hope some day, as a reward to my present submission, that you will sprain your ankle in my company, just a very little bit for an excuse, and let me have the nursing of it. It hurts my heart to have your poor bones crying out for comfort that I am not to bring to them. I feel robbed of a part of my domestic training, and may never pick up what I have just lost. And I fear greatly you must have been truly in pain to have put off Meredith for a day. If I had been at hand to read to you, I flatter myself you would have liked him very well, and been soothed. You must take the will, beloved, for the deed. I kiss you now, as much as even you can demand, and when you get this I will be thinking of you all over again. When do I ever leave off? Love, love, love till our next meeting, and then more love still, and more. Ever your own. Letter 21. Dearest, I am in a simple mood to-day, and give you the benefit of it. I shall become complicated again presently, and you will hear from me directly that happens. The house only emptied itself this morning. I may say emptied, for the remainder fits like a saint into her niche, and is so far comfortable to count. This is C., whom you only once met, when she sat so much in the background that you will not remember her. She has one weakness, a thirst between meals, the blameless thirst of a rabid teetotaler. She hides cups of cold tea about the place as a dog its bones. Now and then one gets spilled or sat on, and when she hears of the accident she looks thirsty, with a thirst which only that particular cup of tea could have quenched. In no other way is she any trouble. Indeed, she is a great dear, and has the face of a Madonna, as beautiful as an apocryphal gospel to look at and make belief in. Arthur, too, like the rest of them, when he came over to give me his brotherly blessing, wished to know what you were like. I didn't pretend to remember your outward appearance too well, told him you looked like a common or garden Englishman, and roused his suspicions by so careless a championship of my choice. He accused me of being in reality highly sentimental about you, and with having at that moment your portrait concealed and strung around my neck in a locket. Mother Aunt stood up for me against him, declaring I was too sensible a girl for nonsense of that sort. It is a little weakness of hers, you know, to resent extremes of endearment toward any one but herself in those she has brooded, and she has thought us hitherto most restrained and proper, as indeed have we not been? Arthur and I exchanged tokens of truce. In a little while off went my aunt to bed, leaving us alone. Then, for he is the one of us that I am most frank with, "Arthur," cried I, and up came your little locket like a bucket from a well, for him to have his first sight of you, my beloved. He objected that he could not see faces in a nutshell, and I suppose others cannot, only I. He too is gone. If you had been coming he would have spared another day, for to-day was planned and dated, you will remember, and we would have ridden half-way to meet you. But as fate has tripped you, and made all comings on your part indefinite, he sends you his hopes for a later meeting. How is your poor foot? I suppose, as it is ill, I may send it a kiss by post, and wish it well? I do. Truly you are to let me know if it gives you much pain, and I will lie awake thinking of you. This is not sentimental, for if one knows that a friend is occupied over one's sleeplessness, one feels the comfort. I am perplexed how else to give you my company. Your mother, I know, could not yet truly welcome me, and I wish to be as patient as possible, and not push for favours that are not offered. So I cannot come and ask to take you out in her carriage, nor come and carry you away in mine. We must try how fast we can hold hands at a distance. I have kept up to where you have been reading in Richard Feverel, though it has been a scramble, for I have less opportunity of reading, I with my feet, than you without yours. In your book I have just got to the smuggling away of a General Monk in the perforated coffin, and my sense of history capitulates in an abandonment of laughter. I yield. The Gaul's invasion of Britain always becomes broad farce when he attempts it. This in clever ludicrousness beats the unintentional comedy of Victor Hugo's Jim John Jack as a name typical of Anglo-Saxon christenings. But Dumas, through a dozen absurdities, knows apparently how to stalk his quarry, so large a genius may play the fool and remain wise. You see I have given your author a warm welcome at last. And what about you and mine? Tell me you love his women, and I will not be jealous. Indeed, outside him I don't know where to find a written Englishwoman of modern times whom I would care to meet, or could feel honestly bound to look up to. Nowhere will I have her shaking her ringlets at me in Dickens or Thackeray. Scott is simply not modern, and Hardy's women, if they have nobility in them, get so cruelly broken on the wheel that you get but the wrecks of them at last. It is only his charming baggages who come to a good ending. I like an author who has the courage and self-restraint to leave his noble creations alive. Too many try to ennoble them by death. For my part, if I have to go out of life before you, I would gladly trust you to the hands of Clara or Rose or Janet, or most of all Victoria, though, to be accurate, I fear they have all grown too old for you by now. And you, have you any men to offer me in turn out of your literary admirations, supposing you should die of a snapped ankle? Would you give me to D'Artagnan, for instance? Hardly, I suspect. But either choose me some proxy hero, or get well and come to me. You will be very welcome when you do. Sleep is making sandy eyes at me. Good night, dearest. Letter 22. Why, my beloved, since you put it to me as a point of conscience, it is only lying on your back with one active leg doing nothing, and the other dying to have done aching, which has made you take this new start of inquiring within upon everything. Since you call on me for a conscientious answer, I say that it stands to reason that I love you more than you love me, because there is so much more of you to love, let alone fit for loving. Do you imagine that you are going to be a cripple for life, and therefore an indifferent dancer in the dances I shall always be leading you, that you have started this fit of self-deprecation? Or is it because I have thrown Meredith at your sick head that you doubt my tact and my affection, and my power patiently to bear for your sake a good deal of cold shoulder? Dearest, remember I am doctoring you from a distance, and am not yet allowed to come and see my patient, so can only judge from your letters how ill you are. That you have been concealing from me almost treacherously, and only by a piece of abject waylaying did I receive word to-day of your sleepless nights, and so get the key to your symptoms. Lay by Meredith, then, for a while. I am sending you a cargo of Stevenson instead. You have been truly unkind, trying to read what required effort, when you were fit for nothing of the sort. And lest even Stevenson should be too much for you, and wanting very much, and perhaps a little bit jealousy, to be your most successful nurse, I am letting my last large bit of shyness of you go, and with a pleasant sort of pain, because I know I have hit on a thing that will please you. I open my hands and let you have these, and with them goes my last blush. Henceforth I am a woman without a secret, and all your interest in me may evaporate, yet I know it will not. As for this resurrection pie from Love's dead-letter office, you will find from it at least one thing: how much I depended upon response from you before I could become at all articulate. It is you, dearest, from the beginning who have set my head and heart free, and made me a woman. I am something quite different from the sort of child I was less than a year ago, when I wrote that small prayer which stands sponsor for all that follows. How abundantly it has been answered, dearest beloved! Only I know, you do not. Now my prayer is not that you should come true, but that you should get well. Do this one little thing for me, dearest. For you I will do anything. My happiness waits for that. As yet I seem to have done nothing. Oh, but, beloved, I will. From a reading of Fiorci I sign myself as I feel, your glorious, poor little one. End of section 5.